Welcome to Code to Catch Up. My name is Jamie Jones. In this video, we're going to be talking about how you can keep your app well maintained. I'm wearing a hat this morning because my hair is not maintained, and generally just covering things up isn't a good idea. You should really fix the issue. So I need to fix it with a haircut. I'm not promoting Easel, but I do highly recommend checking it out. Bit biased because that's what I work on day to day. But what I want to talk about in this episode is how you can maintain your application, your website in a simple fashion. So you don't want to be spending time, like a lot of time trying to get these things done. If there's steps where you can make simpler in your project to enhance the project, you should definitely do that. So think about the 80-20 rule. So these steps that I put in pretty much every project I do, in the examples I'm going to be showing are actually Rails specific because that's mainly what I use, but this can be translated to any kind of project. So to give you a high level overview, if you don't want to go into the Rails portion, generally what I'm doing is creating a script file that you can then use and basically just run once. So it's one single file that will run various other tools and give an output report. So whether that be a visual report in the web browser or in the terminal, something like that. Now, in saying that, this setup is made to run locally. It's not hooked into anything in general, so it's not going to stop git commits or anything like that. But you can integrate this kind of stuff into CI and break builds if you need to, because most of these tools that you'll use will have exit codes that will break the build and basically alert you that there's fixes that need to happen. So we're going to go over the Rails example I have here and go over the reasons why and what they do. So looking at this file here, it's just a simple bin file. At the very start, we have Ruby Critic, which is kind of like a code analysis tool, and that will run through smells and things like that. If you want an actual service that does this and integrates well with something like GitHub, you should check out Code Climate. Now, next we have is Rails Best Practices, which will do exactly kind of what it says. It runs through the application code base, checks for all the best practices and things you should be doing, and outputs them into a HTML-based report. Next up is Brakeman, and this is just going to run through and make sure there's no actual security issues with the application itself. And then from there on, we're going to open up those two reports, the Rails Best Practices report and the security report. Ruby Critic automatically opens up in the web browser for us, so we don't need to open that. Next up is linting, which linting is pretty important. And this is going to run through and use a configuration file I have, which isn't too different from the default from Rubocop, and just let me know of any kind of linting issues. And then there's bundle audit, which is the bundle audit gem, which does an update to make sure the advisor is up to date, and then we'll run the audit and it will let me know of any gems that are out of date in terms of with security issues, CVE issues and things like that. So let's give this one a demo. So I'm going to run bin health, which is where it's located. So I just need to run this one script, and it's going to go through and do everything it needs to do. And as you can see, it's running through all the reports and giving me an output in the terminal, but I'll show you in a moment there are some that have opened up in the web browser. Now, as you can see, this has been great. I've put this onto a project that's just started, but there's been things that have been not put in place yet, so checks to make sure these things are caught because they are easy to miss. And as you can see here, there's an issue with a gem, and basically that's giving me some solutions, links to the issues and what the actual vulnerability is, which is great. So if we go over to our reports, I'll bring them in here. Ruby Critic has opened here and it's shown me all of my stats. So basically churn, different code smells, things like that. So that's great to see. You know, it really handles those things and gives me a nice visual report. Next here is the Brakeman report, and as you can see, it's doing pretty well. There's no real security issues with the code that we've put in there, and it gives me a list of all those checks that have been done. The next is the Rails Best Practices. We'll check all those, and we can see there's a few that's been missed here. It looks like there's been some auto-generated routes in this application. We need to restrict them because some stuff isn't being used. You know, there's some scope access we need to do and some trailing white space. So basically, when you put all those together, it gives us a good snapshot of the project and a way to basically come in, make the changes as suggested by these tools. Now, I want to put that in place and like really just cement that it's a suggestion. Now, you don't need to follow these religiously, but generally they tools do know what they're doing, and they've been set up in a way to kind of to get out of the way of you having to think if this is right or wrong. Now, that's why there are settings for some of these tools where you can determine you know, if you think that's right or wrong for your particular use, but generally they know what they're doing pretty well. So this allows you to not really think about it, give you a report that you can then action on and improve your application. So I should be able to go along, fix any of these issues, rerun these scripts again. We should have a much cleaner state. I would literally just go along and one by one, just fix one up, rerun the scripts, fix it up, rerun the scripts. You can do them all at once, but I find it easier to see if there's any other cause or effects that you might have when you're implementing those checks. Now, one of the health checks I didn't put in there, which I keep separate, is the actual test suite, because I feel that the test suite should be completely separate and something you should be running extremely regularly. So whenever you make some changes, that it runs then and there. But that's essentially it. That's what I use on projects, in particular Rails projects. I'd love to know what you do. Do you use external services to do all this? Do you integrate with CI? What other tools do you use? I'd love to know what other people are using on various platforms like Laravel, etc. Leave them in the comment section below. And if you are enjoying these videos, please subscribe and leave a like. That would be awesome. Also, if you haven't checked out the podcast, Code to Catch Up, please do go and check that out, codecatchup.com. You can find it in iTunes and other podcatching or syndicating services. Subscribe to that if you do enjoy that as well. Find it on Twitter. You can find at Code to Catchup. You can send through an email as well to codecatchup@gmail.com if you have any questions. I'd love to know. But other than that, we'll catch you in the next video.